wrestling, comics, 90s cartoons, movies, TV series. Hi, I'm Jonathan Esther, and I'd like to invite you to listen to my brother Slow Chemical's brand new podcast, I See Things a Little Differently, a follow-up to his excellent Why Repent, I'ma Do It Again. In it, Slow Chemical brings his natural acerbic wit and knowledge as a content creator, an artist, and a general bon vivant to looking at intricate niches and corners of our pop culture and dissecting it in his unique and infallible way. Or fallible, depending on how you take it. Either way, this excellent podcast will have you revisiting things that you haven't seen in a while, looking at things that you've seen differently, and giving you interesting and fascinating views from in and outside of pop culture. If you love blunt honesty, frank discussion, and just a good time, tune in to my brother's podcast. I See Things a Little Differently now, wherever your pods are cast.
Recording, everybody. Welcome to Ross and Wizzy's Fanfiction Power Hour. I'm your host, Ross Pitt Sharkhunter. With me, as always, today, and only today, is Wizzy Puff. Say hello, Wizzy.
I'm still mad at Ross because he wouldn't let me do a Vorfic on Vorday.
As he should be. It is insane what I will not allow on my podcast. I'm sure there are probably some T-rated Vorfics we could do. Not that I'm against mature fics, but I am against sexual mature fics.
Let alone sexual mature fics on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not going to tell you what I read in my free time, but... So yeah. Hey guys. Today is a special day. It's the first day we are recording with face cam on. We're not recording the face cam. You're not going to see it, but I can see Wizzy.
And I can see Ross. That's a nice hairdo, Ross.
And my oh my, what a beautiful face I have. Now then, today we are reading Celestia's Teeth by Abalidoth. Whatever you want to call it. Go into the description, guys. Now, this is very important. Go into the description and read it with us or before we read it. Or give it a like. And that's very important because we are, this isn't technically speaking legal. So, might as well ask you guys to do the best you can. All right.
Celestia's Teeth by Abalidoth. Chapter 1. Princess Celestia, goddess of the sun, supreme ruler of Equestria, and revered by all ponies, shuffled to the bathroom to brush her teeth. Her ever-waving hair was flagging a bit, and since she'd already finished her nightly task of setting the sun, she was looking forward to getting some much-needed sleep. So this is pre-Luna?
I suppose.
Wow.
Possibly. We'll see.
Her steward, a dour and matronly white unicorn by the name of Snowy Slopes, stood outside the bathroom door. She had only joined Celestia's staff after her last steward had gotten pregnant and retired to be with her family, a scant few months before. Your Highness.
Snowy, is there something you need?
Snowy shook her head. No, Your Highness. I just wanted to inform you of a change of personnel in the palace staff. We've had extra money in the coffers lately, and it was decided to hire more servants to help you with day-to-day tasks. Celestia cleared her throat.
And I wasn't briefed on this?
That's what I'm doing now, Your Highness.
Well, I think there might have been a better time for it. I'll be more than happy to go over the arrangements in the morning, though.
Celestia said diplomatically. She took a step towards the bathroom door. Snowy Slopes stepped in front of her. I think you ought to listen to the changes, Your Highness.
And I think I ought to be going to bed.
Celestia took one more step towards the door, and Snowy bowed her head and stepped aside. The door swung open to reveal one very nervous-looking unicorn mare, almost a filly still, with a green and white mane and a mint-green coat. She was holding a toothbrush and one shaking hoof. Is she supposed to look like toothpaste with that look?
Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious. Celestia turned her head slowly to face Snowy Slopes, who was attempting to back out of the room as quickly as she could.
And who is this?
She asked gently. This is Minty Fresh. Wait, Minty? Minty! Minty, the steward said. Her special talent is dental hygiene, and she's going to be your tooth cleaner, Your Highness.
You hired some pony to brush my teeth.
Yes, Your Highness.
Finally!
Celestia rubbed her forelock with one hoof.
Well, I don't begrudge you hiring new ponies, but I'd really rather brush my own teeth. Can you, I don't know, give her a different job around the palace?
Snowy Slopes shook her head, looking increasingly uncomfortable. The anti-feather bedding provisions that you ruled on last month state that when a pony is employed by the crown, she is required to do the job that her contract states in order to get pay. The only way to keep her from brushing your teeth, by law, is to fire her. Oh my god. That's just, like, so cruel. You can make an exception to the law. You're the friggin' goddess of the sun or whatever.
Yeah.
Celestia looked back at the terrified young mare in the bathroom, who looked like she was trying to blend back into the marble countertop to avoid the princess's notice. And then back to Snowy. She can totally blend in the bathroom, just pretend to be toothpaste.
Yeah. Wow, Wizzy, you're so smart. Is this because I have a problem with bad breath?
She asked. She puffed a single breath into her hoof, and then inhaled through her nose.
I don't smell any...
Snowy Slopes gasped. No, Your Highness. Nothing is wrong.
Are you sure?
As soon as she asked the question, she wished she hadn't. Snowy Slopes backed away from her down the hall, gibbering. No, Your Highness, your breath is roses and sunshine always. Your gums are a credit to the great nation of Equestria. I will see you in the morning, Your Highness. Sleep well. Good night. With that, she turned tail and ran back down the hallway to her own quarters. Celestia sighed and entered the restroom. She flashed a smile at Minty Fresh, who let out a small yelp and shrank back.
Well, aren't you going to get started?
Minty Fresh raised her toothbrush shakily.
Could you please open your mouth, Your Highness?
God, sounds like, Igor or something.
It's pronounced Igor.
Not when I watched the movie Igor.
You're right. Gosh, what a masterpiece.
That's why it's free on YouTube.
They were just like, we can't have people paying for this. It's too good.
We can't restrict it to only the top 1%. Celestia opened her mouth reluctantly. Minty Fresh approached her with the toothbrush and began to slowly brush the princess's front teeth. She was so gentle, afraid of what would happen if she irritated the most powerful set of gums in the land, that she barely cleaned the surface. Once, she poked the princess a little too hard, eliciting a slight wince of discomfort. This in turn drove Minty Fresh to a fresh round of apologizing and even softer, more ineffective brushing. All told, it took nearly half an hour for Celestia's teeth to be cleaned to her satisfaction. As she finished the rest of her evening preparations and sank into bed, Celestia fumed. Something had to be done. XXX. That's
Nice.
Seems about to get spicy.
Xander Cage, baby. Hey, did you ever get the movie Igor and Happily Never After confused? I did a lot for some reason.
I don't remember Happily Never After, but I remember watching Igor in like 2006 or 2009, whenever it came out.
It definitely came out around the same time, I'm pretty sure.
The only thing I really remember about that is the character's name.
Classic.
Your Highness, what are you doing? Celestia looked up from her place at the secluded royal breakfast table.
What does it look like I'm doing, Snowy? I'm eating breakfast.
You're eating pasta!
Garlic and basil pasta, to be exact.
Ooh, that sounds so good right now.
I'm not a pasta fan.
What?
I mean, I like mac and cheese pasta.
Dude.
But I'm not big on pasta.
Spaghetti is so good.
I know a lot of people like spaghetti, but I'm not huge into it. I don't know. I guess the way it's been made for me kind of just feels gross.
Alright, I'm gonna have to make it for you then.
Yes.
Celestia lifted another forkful to her mouth with her magic, slurping up a few stray noodles that came loose.
With extra garlic. Would you like some?
No, thank you, Your Highness. What are you doing eating pasta in the morning?
Perhaps I simply had a craving.
Celestia took another bite, savoring the intense flavor. To be honest, she was enjoying this. Savory foods weren't usually her choice at breakfast, but this time she was on a mission. Besides, her personal chef was excellent at any time of the day. A craving, Your Highness? Should I be concerned? Are you preggers? The steward certainly didn't look concerned. Exasperated was probably the word Celestia would have used, but she seemed obligated to ask anyway.
Perhaps I'm pregnant.
I didn't actually realize that's where they were going.
I knew exactly where they were going. Now wouldn't that be a scandal for the news rags? The Princess of the Sun is with foal. I wonder which of my suitors would be the father.
You don't have any suitors, Your Highness.
Maybe I should get some.
Celestia took another bite, still appreciating what magic could be woven with such robust ingredients.
That would explain the cravings in any case.
Your Highness, what is this really about?
I'm just hungry for pasta. Why, Snowy Slopes, are you worried it will make my breath smell bad?
Ooh, you're insulting the princess again, Snowy. Snowy set her jaw. No, Your Highness, your breath is, as always, a credit to the crown and the nation.
Preach. Tell me honestly.
Celestia leaned as close to the steward as the table would allow.
Should I go to Minty Fresh now and have my teeth cleaned before I meet with any officiants?
No, Your Highness, everything is fine. Celestia chewed thoughtfully. She had hoped Snowy would crack under the initial pressure, but she had more than one trick under her wings.
Well then, what's the agenda for today?
We have a lunch meeting with the mayor of Bridalvale about some trade agreements, and a meeting of the Palace Council over dinner to discuss the recent personal changes. And they're all serving garlic basil pasta.
It's good that you consulted me before actually making the changes.
No offense, Your Highness, but payroll was due by the end of last week, and you were busy with other things.
No, it's no problem.
Celestia chewed on a small piece of pasta as she thought.
So, I have 2 engagements today, both over meals.
That's right, Your Highness.
Well, I'd best prepare, don't you think?
Celestia finished her bowl and pushed the bench back from the table.
After all, it's going to be a big day. Now, which way were the kitchens?
XXX.
Xander Cage.
I don't get that reference, but I still find it funny.
I technically don't. I don't know what those movies are about. The Triple X movies. I just know that there's a guy named Xander Cage in at least one of them because one of them's called The Return of Xander Cage.
The mayor of Bridalveil was a sour-looking old stallion, the kind of pony who'd naturally find himself drawn to bureaucracy. He was of somber coloration. Sombra! Brown coat, somewhat darker brown mane cropped in a conservative style, and his cutie mark was obscured by his formal attire.
Goddamn conservatives.
He sat at the end of Celestia's banquet table, surrounded by a few members of his city council, muttering ominously amongst themselves. By the time Celestia came to the table, already in attendance were her economic advisor Goldcoin, her political advisor Morningtide, and Luna, who had woken up... So this Luna's here. Why wasn't she setting the sun?
Luna doesn't set the sun. She raises the moon.
Oh, I get it now. Okay. I thought that was like the same thing. Her political advisor Morningtide and Luna, who had woken up specially for the occasion and still looked a bit groggy.
Good day,
Celestia said with false cheer. The mayor of Bridalveil was usually a tricky customer, and never seemed particularly friendly. Celestia always had a way of making others act reasonable. Being about 2 heads taller than everyone else tended to do that. But the mayor was generally immune to her particular charms.
Oh my.
Good day.
The mayor mumbled.
Now, Your Highness, what's all this about lowering hay subsides in the Bridalveil area?
It's been a bumper crop year,
Celestia explained. She made it a point of pride not to lie to her subjects, even if her advisers would have preferred she be a little more political. Goldcoin, in particularly, massaged his temple with one hoof, knowing the full unleashing of sensitive economic information that was to come.
But that part of bumper crop has been coming from my town,
He frowned.
What am I supposed to tell my local farmers? They should produce less if they want to get crown bits?
What the heck does bumper mean?
I don't know. Celestia and Goldcoin stared at the mayor in confusion.
A bumper crop is a crop that has yielded an unusually productive harvest. Okay, that makes sense then.
I wish I could get some bumper crops.
Me too. That's not how subsidy cuts work.
Celestia finally managed.
It just means we're buying Bridalveil hay at a fixed price. But since the price is low this year anyway, we're buying less of it.
Your Highness, you're not foaling any pony here.
Foaling, that's good. I like that. That's clever. It's both a kidding joke and a fooling joke. It's clever.
You're not gonna make a fool out of me.
I've heard that one before.
Me too.
Oh, cool.
The mayor slammed his hoof on the table and reared up to his full, not particularly impressive, height.
My local farmers are being cheated out of...
The doors from the dining room to the kitchen burst open, and Snowy Slopes, dressed in her best visitor garb, stepped through.
Lunch is served.
Celestia leaned back and breathed a sigh of relief while the silver-domed trays were brought through the door and arranged artfully around the table. For a starter, we are serving watercress and minty fresh. We are serving watercress and mint salad, Snowy began. Specially picked to be light and mild with positive effect on the breath. Oh my god.
What?
What's your problem, Snowy Slopes?
You know exactly what her problem is.
The princess smiled at that. It seemed like Snowy was trying to outmaneuver her. She would quickly find out, though, that 1,000 years of experience gave a pony marvelous ability at subterfuge. Celestia cleared her throat and tapped on her glass. Snowy turned to her liege with a wary eye. Your Highness, do you have something to add?
Well, I just thought that since the mayor and his staff are 2 days' journey from home, they might feel a little out of sorts here in Canterlot. As such, I've asked the chef to prepare an appetizer with a little more rural character.
The servants apprehensively removed the silver domes from the platters. Underneath each was a wheel of white cheese with greenish spotty rind, surrounded by different kinds of crackers. Snowy, Gold Coin, Morning Tide, and the servants stared in confusion. Luna just raised an eyebrow, but the delegation from Bridal Veil had a much more pronounced reaction.
Bridal Veil Blue.
The mayor nearly jumped out of his seat in excitement.
I have to say, Your Highness, I had no idea you had such tasted cheese. Did you know my wife's ancestors were the first cheesemakers to make Bridal Veil Blue?
I had no idea.
Celestia lied cheerfully.
I've been looking forward to try it myself.
The servers were at a loss as to how to introduce the meal, so they began silently cutting wedges off the wheel. As soon as the first piece was cut, a pungent aroma filled the room. The server with the knife jumped back as if struck, and Snowy's eyes began to water. The mayor was, if anything, only more excited.
That's real Bridal Veil cheese, all right.
The smell only intensified as the wheels were further segmented. Celestia wasn't sure how the chef had managed to come by 5 wheels of a relatively obscure, locally produced aromatic cheese, but her chef was a Pegasus pony who, in his youth, had run with a band of griffin smugglers. He always had a tendency to acquire certain things, and seemed to enjoy taking unusual requests from Celestia. The entire Bridal Veil contingent tapped their hooves on the table impatiently as the cheese was served on their end. Not even the impropriety of eating before the princess could stem their enthusiasm, and they tucked into the smelly appetizer with gusto. Celestia's side of the delegation was less certain, and Morningtide in particular seemed distressed by the turn of events. Celestia was a little worried herself. Still, she had eaten plenty of unpalatable delicacies in the name of good diplomacy. The fried candy bars from Cloudsdale came to mind, but at least this was a tradition with a good number of years behind it. Celestia was just about to bite into a cheese-topped cracker when Snowy interrupted her.
Your Highness, wait.
The cracker, enveloped in the purple haze of Celestia's magic, floated downwards a bit.
Yes, Snowy? You don't think this would affect my breath any, do you?
Snowy Slopes froze up. No, Your Highness.
Bullshit.
The mayor paused in between bites.
Your Highness,
he said in a bit of his rural accent beginning to creep into his voice.
The breath, just part of it. Why do you think it was a Bridal Valian who invented chewing gum? We got a statue of her right in town square, right next to the one of my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpa-in-law.
I think I may have missed one of the greats. Oh well.
Great. You might just have... Well, I'm sure that won't be a problem. My staff has informed me that I'm immune to halitosis.
She shot Snowy a look. Snowy said nothing, so Celestia bit down into the cracker. To say that Bridal Veil Blue tasted better than it smelled would be an understatement. In fact, the highly aromatic cheese was some of the best Celestia had in her 1,000+ years of equestrian leadership. Yeah, I bet it sounded good.
Yeah.
It was creamy and flowed like butter over her tongue, enveloping her in a nutty, smooth cheese flavor. As she chewed thoughtfully, she thought about the state of her plans. Snowy was still obstinate about the toothbrushing, but getting closer to her breaking point, and the once standoffish mayor was chattering about replacing some of the subsidies with a Bridal Veil Canterlot cultural exchange program. Cheese tastings, to be precise. 2 birds, 1 stone. Oh, and there was also the delicious cheese. Make that 3 birds. XXX.
What are you up to, Sally?
Is that the ghost of Luna?
No, it's just Luna.
Whoa. Is she imitating a ghost?
No. It's just how she
Man.
talks.
Okay. Luna's voice snapped Celestia out of her smugly victorious reverie. She had been returning to her chambers to rest before the coming meeting and hadn't expected that Luna would be coming in the other direction.
Nothing, dear sister. Why do you ask?
The purple alicorn fluttered her wings a bit and stalked closer to Celestia.
I guess we could call her Purple. And you didn't override the chefs and serving staff for a little political leverage over the mayor? Well, I may have done that. Just a little. But what I can't figure out is why you're antagonizing your steward. Is this about our new dental specialists?
Celestia sighed.
Luna, you always were able to discern my... Wait, did you say our? You didn't think they'd hire somebody to take care of your teeth without doing the same for me? We are theoretically the co-rulers of Equestria.
Celestia nickered at that.
I suppose I was just hoping they'd leave you alone. I'll need to change my plans. Really, Sally, it's fine.
Luna sidled up to her sister and nuzzled her on the cheek.
Oh. I appreciate your efforts in keeping me out of the public eye and the attentions of the servants, but sometimes I don't mind being fawned over a little bit. After 1,000 years on the moon, it's nice. I just wish they'd consult with me before treating me like...
Celestia blinked at what she was about to say.
Well, like royalty. Which makes sense, but... You don't understand why they're doing it, do you? No, I can honestly say that I don't. They're afraid, Celestia. They're doing it because they're afraid. They're afraid of your bad breath. Why, though? I've given them no reason to be afraid of me.
Celestia stamped one hoof on the inlaid marble floor.
I set up the council and the high court to work towards a rule by all ponies. I hear petitions until my ears are about to fall off, granting almost every request. I do everything I can to encourage constructive dissent of my policies. Why do they still treat me like I'll become some horrendous tyrant at the slightest discomfort? Because they're not afraid of you. They're afraid of losing you.
Luna walked over to one of the windows of the bedchamber hall, where the sun was just barely visible at the apex of the sky.
During the summer sun celebration when I kidnapped you.
Celestia saw the darkness growing in her sister's eyes and crossed the hall to face her directly.
When Nightmare Moon kidnapped me. Celestia doesn't actually know that Luna and Nightmare Moon are the same person.
I mean, technically they're pretty much different, right?
I mean, they're opposites, but like... Well, not opposites, but you know. They're not the same person, but it's like you and me. We're the same person, right? It's just different, like, personality.
Yeah. It's like, How sometimes I make you kidnap people, and sometimes you make me kidnap people.
Exactly.
But we get the same sentence all the same.
Mm-hmm. Luna, you know I would no more blame you for that than stall the sun's progress myself. Great idea, though. That's a great fanfiction idea. Put that one on the docket. A fanfiction where Celestia didn't actually know that Luna and Nightmare Moon were the same. When Nightmare Moon kidnapped you,
Luna continued.
oh, brother, ponies were missing more than just the warmth of the sun. They missed their luminary, their beloved leader. You're the heart of Equestria, and you were even before Nightmare Moon's rise. They've started treating you more delicately because those few hours showed them just how much they had to lose. It showed them how much they took you for granted, Celestia.
Celestia thought back over the year or so since her student and her friends had taken the mantle of the elements of harmony. Her staff was increasingly shielding her from public events that could not be sufficiently secured. Her personal guard had more than doubled. On the express command of her captain of the guard, her personal physician seemed exceptionally keen to keep an eye on her health, despite the fact that she had gotten sick maybe 5 times in the past 1,000 years.
They're protecting me.
She nodded.
On some level, I already knew that, but it doesn't make it any easier for me to take. I'm no more fragile than I was a year ago, or 500 years ago, or 3 years ago,
or 2 weeks ago.
But not 34 years ago. Oh boy.
That was when I really bulked up.
So let them know that. Play your little scheme.
Luna smiled.
You always were one for harmless tricks. Father would have been proud of how you mixed a prank with a bureaucratic measure today. That was more a lucky coincidence than anything. The diplomacy was planned in advance. The prank just worked into it. Still, don't get any pony hurt. Every pony's on your side, big sister. But not all are as keen to your methods as I. Good day. I'll see you at twilight.
Wait, Twilight?
Night,
She's in this fic?
Night.
As Luna turned away to her own rest chamber, Celestia said,
Thank you, Luna. How did I manage so long without you?
Luna turned back, just for a second.
The same way you always dealt with pain. You worked harder.
Celestia, uncharacteristically pensive, waited and thought for a while before retiring to her own chamber. XXX.
The return of Xander Cage.
The inner meeting hall of Canterlot Palace was a much simpler affair than the sumptuous dining room where Celestia had met with the mayor of Bridalvale. This was furnished more like an office, although an expensive one, with a table grown from rare trees in the Everfree forest. Oh my god, they're cutting down the Everfree forest?
Good.
Christ. Celestia sat at the head of the table, with her council of advisors around her, her exceptionally competent ponies who had been selected because they were better at their jobs than almost any pony in Equestria.
And now we can move on to the majority of our discussion today.
Snowy Slopes pushed aside a small stack of papers and pulled a larger stack in front of her.
As I'm sure you've all noticed, there's been an increase in palace staff, spurred by a few labor regulations that Her Highness helped pass through the legislature. Some of the increase has been to areas that already exist, but are somewhat understaffed. The rest are new positions created to fill a need.
The princess hummed to herself as she followed along. It wasn't strictly required for her to attend these meetings, but she tried to do so every week anyway. Still, there wasn't usually much for her to do. One of the side effects of retaining the most competent ponies was that they tended to get things done without one's help.
I'm just going to go through the list of personnel changes. If you have any questions, stop me.
Snowy peered down at the paper before her, cleared her throat, and began to read.
Ahem. Gardeners.
We don't have any gardeners.
What?
I don't know. It's just me being stupid.
We're adding 4 gardeners to the back gardens and 9 to the front. There's going to be some alterations to the shift schedule.
The meeting went on in that vein for about an hour. Celestia listened with one ear, biding her time and waiting for her cue. All of the palace goings-on were important to her, of course, but she could catch the important points of the meeting without knowing whether the 4th of 7th extra banquet chefs should have a flex schedule. Finally, there was a knock at the door.
That must be dinner.
Snowy stood as the doors swung open and servers came in with silver-domed platters.
We're serving a light dinner, watercress and mint salad with shaved apple. We have had a few intrusions with food tampering in the kitchen, so we've told the chefs not to let any pony in. Got it, Celestia?
Celestia chuckled to herself. Snowy thought she was being clever, but she should have known that Celestia never used the same tactic twice in a row. She waited patiently while the salad, which she did have to admit was one of her favorites, was served.
Excuse me.
She began when all the serving ponies were out of the room.
But I've been having some odd cravings recently. I hope you'll indulge me if I brought a snack.
Snowy's eyes opened in apprehensive horror, but every pony else in the room was just confused. Celestia used her telekinesis to open one of the cabinets in the room and remove a large burlap sack. She floated it across the room, pausing for emphasis, and dropped it on the table with a heavy thud. The lip of the burlap sack tipped over, and 4 bright yellow onions fell out. Oh my god, she's turning into Shrek. The rest of the counselors' faces matched Snowy's as Celestia floated one up to her lips and bit down hard. The crunch reverberated around the room.
But don't let me interrupt.
Snowy closed her eyes and took a few deep breaths to steady herself.
Very well, your crunch. Highness, it doesn't munch really matter one munch way or another.
Look here, Snowy. Carry on.
So now we crunch can move on to munch. The changes in the holiday. Munch. Kitchen staff schedule. We crunch. Don't have a major holiday. Munch. Coming up, but we can munch. Use the upcoming diplomatic munch. Feast as a test run. We're crunch. Going to bring in a temporary munch. Your Highness, do you mind?
Celestia dropped the half-eaten onion.
Am I eating too loudly? Apologies. Or is it my breath?
Yes!
Snowy blinked tears out of her eyes. The vapors from Celestia's snack had finally filled the room, and every pony but the sun goddess had bloodshot, teary eyes. Christ, Celestia!
Yes, that is. It's a bit noisy. I wouldn't want to interrupt your dinner, but...
Celestia closed her eyes demurely.
I apologize for interrupting. Snowy, do go on.
Thank you, Your Highness. As I was saying, munch! The holiday schedule, munch, requires a change. Crunch! In the menu, munch, which will... The underside of Snowy Slope's eye twitched.
Will what? Asked Gold Coin.
Will have no onions or garlic or rancid cheese. As diplomatically appropriate as it might be, it will, in fact, have no food that our beloved princess could use to turn her breath into a train wreck of horrific odors, the same beloved princess who is currently throwing a temper tantrum because I was trying to spare her feelings by delegating her dental hygiene elsewhere, the same beloved princess who has always had a minor case of halitosis, especially in the mornings and during the summer, the same beloved princess with a stressful job of raising and lowering the sun every day, and as much as entitled to a little pampering, the same beloved princess who has driven me over the course of a single day to rethink ever taking this position.
She's talking about me.
Celestia chucked her onion behind her head and began to dig into the watercress and mint salad as fast as she could shovel it into her mouth.
Please don't quit, Snowy,
she said between bites.
I need you. You're one of the best stewardess. You're one of the best stewards I ever had in 1,000 years.
Wouldn't it be stewardess?
It would be, but I guess not.
Huh.
I just wanted to drive home the point that I'm no more fragile than I was before the summer sun celebration. If anything, I'm stronger now that Luna has returned to take care of the knights. You were too stubborn to just listen, though.
Snowy Slopes bowed her head and turned towards the door.
I am sorry, Princess. I'll leave you now.
No. Don't apologize. No, I'm gonna redo that one. But keep that in. I like that. No. Don't apologize. Your stubbornness is part of what makes you such a good steward. It's just that, well, you suck sometimes. It's just that, well, I have flaws. I have bad breath sometimes, a tendency to micromanage, and I'm fairly bad at managing money. I'm certain that that's not the full extent of it, and that's why I need ponies like you around me. In fact, why don't you tell me a flaw that I didn't list?
Snowy Slope's clear blue eyes locked on to Celestia's, and new resolve flashed through them.
You have awful taste in interior decoration, Your Highness.
Fuck you. Is that why you insisted on a renovation when you took the job? And arranged for it to happen when I was in Philadelphia dealing with that Paris sprite infestation?
That's exactly right, Your Highness.
Celestia sobbed uncontrollably. Celestia chuckled.
You're a lot more subtle than I gave you credit for, Snowy. I can tell that I'm going to have to call my 1,000+ years of experience to outmaneuver you.
Or you could just let me work in your best interests, Your Highness.
The princess sat back on her haunches with a radiant smile.
Well, what would be the fun in that?
XXX Tentacion. Princess Celestia, goddess of the sun, supreme ruler of Equestria and revered by all ponies, trotted happily towards the bathroom to brush her teeth. She always felt more invigorated when she'd had a prank-filled day. Also, she'd hopefully convinced Snowy not to dote on her so much, giving her a great deal of freedom in the days to come. Celestia had been feeling so good that she had worked together with Luna to make an unusually beautiful sunset, something that she had missed doing when Luna was on the moon. It was only when she opened the bathroom door to the sound of soft sobs that she realized she had forgotten something. Minty Fresh sat there with a tube of toothpaste in one hoof and a toothbrush in another, slumped against the wall in utter dejection. Her green and white mane was in complete disarray, and her eyes were red from tears. Luna's words from earlier that day went through Celestia's mind.
Don't get any pony hat. Every pony's on your side, big sister. Are you alright?
She asked. Minty apparently hadn't noticed the princess come in, and she startled so hard that the toothpaste tube went flying through the bathtub. Went flying toward the bathtub.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Your Highness. It will never happen again. Please forgive me, Your Highness.
What exactly did you do wrong?
Celestia had meant her question as a genuine inquiry, but Minty looked chastised, as if it had been a schoolmarish, and what have you learned from all this?
I don't know, Your Highness, but once I find out, it will never happen again.
You don't know what you did wrong, but you still think you did something wrong. What would give you that idea?
Minty swallowed back another sob.
I was following your eating choices all day to better gauge what kind of oral care you need, and you're trying to punish me. To make your breath so bad that I would quit.
Celestia shook her head.
Right again, sis. I was upset that they appointed you to do something that I can easily do myself. It has nothing to do with you personally. You actually did a fine job of brushing my teeth this morning.
Minty sniffed a couple of times, but her sobs seemed to have stopped. She looked up at Celestia expectantly.
And besides, a pony with your expertise probably has better ways to serve the realm.
I suppose, Your Highness. Are you certain you're not unhappy with me?
Actually, I am.
Oh, no, Minty. You're gonna get fired, bud. Celestia thought for a bit. All day, Minty had been following her around, gauging her food choices to tailor her oral routine. For a mare that was hired solely to hold a toothbrush, that was far above and beyond the call of duty. So she was awarded a Medal of Honor.
Yay!
Minty Fresh really did have better ways to serve the realm.
Actually, you are hereby fired from your position of service under the crown.
Minty's disheveled mane fell flat, and she bowed her head.
Your Highness,
However, it just so happens that I'm in need of an informant within the Canterlot College of Dentistry. Some pony that I can trust, some pony with a special talent in oral health care, with a keen mind for medicine. Do you know any pony like that?
Well, Your Highness, I have a sister in Ponyville who...
Minty blinked.
Oh, you were talking about me. Indeed I was. Do you think you could handle that position?
Well, I was already on the college council when I was hired for this, so probably.
You hired her to brush my teeth? We need to have a talk, Snowy Slopes. Fantastic. Come in during petitioning tomorrow. I'll see to it that you get fast-tracked to the front line.
Pardon the forwardness, Your Highness, but when you say informant, do you mean spy?
Not quite. I need some pony who will report the actual goings-on without political bias or undue loyalty to the council. You'll answer directly to me. I have various agents like you in different academic and non-governmental bodies around Equestria who give me the inside story with no sugarcoating.
I'm a dentist, Your Highness. Sugarcoating is my mortal enemy.
Celestia chuckled.
Quite. In any case, sleep well, and we'll speak in the morning.
Wink.
Minty slowly made her way to the door, knees shaking with relief and excitement. However, when she had barely made it to into the hallway, she turned back to face the princess.
What? Tea tree oil.
Celestia was in the process of fetching her toothpaste from the bathtub ledge and wasn't fully paying attention.
Pardon?
Tea tree oil. It's a remedy for minor chronic halitosis. Mint will just cover the smell up, but a mouthwash of water and tea tree oil will help eliminate it entirely.
I think I'll give it a shot. Thank you, Minty Fresh.
You're welcome, Princess Celestia.
The young mare made her way out of the hallway, leaving Celestia alone in silence.
My faithful student, you haven't sent me a letter in a while, so I assume you're dead. So I assume everything is quiet in Ponyville. In light of that, I thought I would pass along a few lessons about friendship from a recent experience of mine. The first is a lesson I had to teach, and it is this. Your friends are not always as fragile as you think they are. Sometimes, even when you think you're doing them a favor or sparing their feelings, they'd really rather stand on their own four hooves. The second is a lesson I had to learn, and it is the reverse of the other. Your friends are not always as strong as you think they are, either. Take you, for example, Twilight. You're so weak and pathetic, I could crush you like a bug. It is important to remember that something you think is harmless might genuinely ruin some pony's day. Oh, and one more thing. I found a solution for Spike's little problem. Next time you see your zebra friend, ask her where you can find some tea tree oil. Warmly, Princess Celestia.
Aw, just calling out Spike like that? That's so mean, Celestia.
That is so rude. Let's hashtag cancel Celestia. All right, so that was Celestia's Teeth by person I forgot the name of. By Abalidoth.
Oh, that was a good one. That was just a good classic fan fiction.
Yes, I agree. I give it a 45 out of 6. 45 out of 6. Loved it.
Whoa, that's a huge...
Yeah, it was the greatest story of all time. Not really, but I liked it. It was good. Such a shame it doesn't have a picture, so somebody's gonna have to figure that one out.
Aw, that's me. I'm gonna have to figure that one out.
Uh-oh.
Rats. I'm just gonna put up a picture of Minty.
That's a good idea. I think Minty Fresh might be Lyra. It would only make sense.
Oh.
Hold on.
Of
course, I could be
Minty
totally
Fresh
wrong.
Actually, was Minty Fresh the actual name of the pony that was like named Minty?
No. But you know, same colors, not as Minty, but as Lyra. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence. And maybe I got the colors mixed up. I don't know. Anyways, good stuff. What more could we say? It was funny. It gave us a look into Celestia's life. It had Celestia. It had Luna. It was a My Little Pony Friendship is Magic story.
Major compliments to Celestia's gums, which is something we haven't seen in a fan fiction yet.
Yeah. You know what? I don't think there's another fan fiction like this out there. I'd be surprised. So I dare you all to go out and try and find one. We'll see about that. But, anyways.
I think everything is now wrapped up nice and tight.
Everything is perfectly fine. So, everyone, if you hadn't read it before, go down and give it a like. Even if you didn't like it, stop being a bitch.
Giving them that old.
And yeah, go subscribe to me on YouTube, Ross Pitt Shark Hunter. Go follow me on Twitter at Ross Pitt Shark. Go follow Wizzy on Twitter at Wizzy_Puff. Is that it?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Bye.
Record-ing.
Recording?
Record-ing.
What is with that?
It's how
nothing.
It's how I say hello in my language.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then.